Hi, everyone. I'm Christen Brandt, the co-founder and chief programs officer for She's the First, and welcome to another weekly edition of The Front Row. This is called Front Row Fridays for two reasons. First, because it gives you a front row seat to the girl experts all around the world that we're lucky enough to call friends. And second of all, because The Front Row is the name of our monthly giving program. The front row is what keeps She's the First running because it's sustained giving. And for nonprofits, sustained giving really is power. It starts at as little as $5 a month. And so if you're interested in joining us, you can do that at choosethefirst.org/front row. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Vilma Saloj Chiyal, who's the principal at the MAIA Impact School in Guatemala. Vilma is someone who has represented the MAIA Impact School as well as Indigenous communities in Guatemala in places as far-flung as Washington, D.C., here in New York, in Denver, and even in Dubai, where last year MAIA won the Zayed Sustainability Prize for their school. Most recently, she was selected for the first ever cohort of the Inkai Business School's Excel program, the Young Leaders Program for Emerging Civil Society. So I'm so thrilled to be able to bring on today Vilma. Vilma, you're muted. Can you grab the microphone?
Sorry. Nice to meet you. Good morning, everyone.
Thanks for being here. And I think we all understand the issues of video chatting at this point in our global quarantine. So, Vilma, just to set the scene a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about MAIA Impact School and what it is that you do?
Thank you. MAIA is a nonprofit organization based in Guatemala that unlocks and maximizes potential of young women to lead transformational change. The MAIA Impact School is the first female Indigenous lead secondary school in Central America that offers a holistic education focused equality on academics, culture, and identity, socio-emotional development, and family engagement. We believe the world needs empowered women with the knowledge and resources to live choice-filled lives so they can, in turn, lead their families and communities out of poverty. MAIA is Can you help me, please, Kristen? En MAIA tenemos muchas graduadas que actualmente están trabajando y también están estudiando en la universidad. Y muchas de ellas también son emprendedoras para tener en el futuro su propia empresa.
Mm-hmm. So MAIA already has many graduates of MAIA that are both in university and working in the formal job economy that have jobs. And they also have many students who have gone on to become entrepreneurs and to start their own businesses. I also do want to point out that, Vilma, you mentioned that this is the first ever school in Central America run by Indigenous women for Indigenous girls. And I think that's just an incredible, incredible feat. We know that in Guatemala, the statistic is that fewer than 1% of Indigenous women go to university. So to have a high school and middle school run entirely by Indigenous women, to have those students go on to university is an incredible accomplishment, particularly for an organization that's been around for less than a generation. So just to start us off today, could you give everyone a sense of what is the situation in Guatemala with COVID, kind of in general?
Sí, Guatemala pues no está preparado para esta emergencia. Tenemos muchas limitaciones para poder atender a toda la población y que todas las personas puedan estar seguras ante este virus.
Yeah, so she's saying that Guatemala is not prepared for this emergency. And, I also noticed that in the news recently, there's a lot to be said about the count, which is currently only at about 175. So we're not looking at many, many people who have it right now, but the worry is really about for the future. Yes?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. No, nosotros no tenemos un equipo ahorita para poder atender, ni tampoco un protocolo para poder darle a las personas en todo el país y que ellos puedan seguir y estar y seguir todo este protocolo a nivel de país.
And so she's saying that currently they don't have the equipment for everyone. So when you think about this virus coming to Guatemala and preparing for it, there just isn't the equipment that they need for everyone throughout the country.
Sí, y todo esto tiene un efecto, no tenemos un plan en la parte de economía, en la parte del sistema de salud y mucho menos en la educación. Y realmente esto es muy preocupante para nosotras.
Yeah, so currently there really aren't cohesive plans, clear plans in the areas of the health system, in the areas of economy, and most especially in the area of education. So that's something that is really concerning and really worrying. And so,
Yeah.
Vilma, talk to me then about what are some of your concerns around girls specifically and around what happens when COVID does get to Guatemala, since there doesn't seem to be great plans in place.
Yeah, our biggest fear is the total collapse of our health system and the effects that on indigenous community for the women. It's very hard. I think now we have practice or now we practicing social distancing, but it helps now, but it's not sufficient for the next weeks. I think more for rural communities, it's more vulnerable in front of this crisis. And I think it's similar in United States, like people in poverty and people with low paying jobs suffer the most. They need the works, they need to buy food, so it is difficult for them. Is the same in my country because like so many people lost their agriculture. They can't like because they need to stay in the home and they can't like eh, no pueden producir o no pueden generar un ingreso para poder llevar todos los servicios básicos, pagar la electricidad, poder comprar comida para su familia.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of just basic services that aren't there. So like electricity. So they're not able to get the food because they don't have jobs, they're not bringing in money, and they're not able to cook because often there's even no electricity anyway. Yeah. And so a lot of these themes that you're talking about, they tend to happen all over the globe, just as you said. So the issue for people living in poverty in Guatemala, you're worried about some of the same things that we're worried about here in the US as we confront this with people from our own communities and worry about the most vulnerable people here. But I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about your concerns for the Indigenous community in Guatemala and what makes that different. What are you looking at when you think about COVID and its impact on Indigenous people and Indigenous communities?
Pienso que para la gente de las comunidades indígenas en Guatemala realmente es muy complejo porque muchas de las personas que trabajan fuera de las comunidades y retornan a sus comunidades o todo el dinero que se producía por los inmigrantes, realmente esto está afectando a muchas familias porque ya no pueden mandar este dinero para la sobrevivencia de su familia.
Yeah, so she's saying that first of all, for many immigrant families, they do have family members who are working either in other cities or in other countries, and they're sending funding back to their families. And that's one of the ways that many of these families are able to survive. Now with COVID, many of these people and these families are coming back to their communities. And so that's actually cutting off a supply of funding for families. It's cutting off their money source.
Ujú. Y finalmente, las mujeres, el estar en casa representa también un riesgo cuando viven con una persona, pues su pareja puede ser un violador, una persona que ejerce violencia sobre la mujer, y también es una de nuestras preocupaciones más fuertes. Y Maya tiene algunos protocolos para poder llevar a cabo con las mujeres en las comunidades.
Yeah, so another really big worry for her and for Maya is that many of these women and girls are at home with people who are abusive and who do exercise violence against women. And so one of the big worries is what happens with these women and girls who are behind closed doors, who are experiencing this kind of violence. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I know that there are also issues even with, you talked a little bit about basic services too. And so when it comes to health and hygiene, are there any concerns that you have there?
¿Puedes traducirlo, por
Agua,
favor?
con salud, con
Sí, definitivamente en las comunidades rurales tenemos muy poco acceso a los servicios básicos como el agua, la electricidad y también para comida. Entonces, en esta situación de esta crisis a nivel nacional, muchas de las comunidades indígenas únicamente tienen como acceso a 2 horas al día para poder guardar agua y poder utilizarlo durante el día. Y si nos damos cuenta, en esta crisis lo más importante es lavarnos las manos, todas las recomendaciones que se están dando, necesitamos de este factor importante que es el agua.
Mm-hmm. And so she's saying that, again, with basic services in many rural communities, there are issues with electricity, there are issues with water. And she's saying that, in fact, for many rural communities in Guatemala, they only have access to running water for 2 hours, 2 horas cada día.
Yes, sí, 2 horas al día.
So 2 hours each day is all that they have for running water. And of course, she's reminding us that one of the best ways to protect yourself, to stay healthy during this crisis, is that you have to be washing your hands all the time. And so a big concern is, how can you be washing your hands all day? How can you protect yourself in this way if you only have access to this water for 2 hours each day?
Yes, I think for the government too, is not a priority to provide that services for the Mayan population. And I think the other thing for us is we don't have the access for information in our Mayan language. That is very hard, because in Guatemala we have a 22 Mayan language, and many people can't read and can't understand in Spanish, and the government don't provide tools or many things for the access for the information in our country, and that is very hard for us too because in this situation we need the information, the basic information.
Yeah, and I know MAIA is taking a few steps on that we'll talk about soon. But one of the things that strikes me about all of these factors you're talking about, lack of access to water, lack of access to information, violent situations, all of these actually increase your likelihood of getting this virus. And that's a really scary situation as well, considering how medical systems are really being overrun with this virus as it takes off. I think one of the things I find most inspiring about MAIA's response to these issues is that even though the people that you work with in your communities are in a difficult situation, you never treat girls and you never treat those communities like victims. And this is something that resonates with us at She's the First, because we recognize that it can be easy to treat girls as victims. It can be easy to treat them just as a tool to reach an end goal. But at MAIA, you really treat girls as part of this overall solution, right? They're part of the process. And so I'm curious to hear you talk about how have you worked with girls throughout this process to include them along the way?
Yeah, thank you. MAIA is a proactive organization in this situation because during our intervention in the Mayan communities, we empower the communities about the hygiene and the health with the girls, with their families too. This has been happening already of many years, even before we had started the school. What have we invest a lot to finally reap fruits in the girl effect, right? Because we work a lot with the girls, with their family, empowering them with the resources, with the resources and the tools too. And I think how is this begin achieved? It's I think now we create the videos for the family, for our community, because we want to give for them the access for the information, for guidelines, what they need to do for in front of this crisis.
So the girls are actually acting as leaders already within their community. And I think that this is an important point. When we talk about girls worldwide, we're not talking about a monolith. We're not talking about one group. There are many girls within this category who are well educated, like the Girl Pioneers who've been part of MAIA, who are able to work with their communities and who are able to bring the information that MAIA has back into their communities to be able to share it. And because of the work that MAIA has been doing for so long, they're able to dispense that information in a way that people can really listen. I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit more about some of the approaches you're taking to make sure that communities are safe during COVID.
Yeah, I think now we have okay, we believe so much the girls can lead their communities and their families in front of this situation. And we have in this troop making videos, being reporters in their community. They are raising their voice to the outside the world through podcasts, reporters from their communities, and the new channels because they have ideas for their families, for their community, because they love lives and they want to stay safe too in front of this situation.
Yeah, so there are podcasts, news channels, radio, just getting the word out, and they're really acting as advocates.
Ya, cuando el presidente de nuestro país indicó que teníamos estado de calamidad por el primer caso que teníamos en nuestro país, MAIA fue proactivo para poder responder a las necesidades de las comunidades de manera inmediata al crear una campaña de videos.
Okay, so she's saying that when the president first announced that COVID had come to Guatemala and they had their first case, the government started giving out information and making information. And MAIA realized right away that they needed to be able to share this information. So they started a campaign with their own videos.
Y fueron videos para poder dar indicaciones de prevención como el lavado de manos, el evitar tocarse la cara, los ojos y la boca. Toda esta información, MAIA respondió de una manera muy positiva y proactiva en dar este acceso a esta información en idiomas mayas, principalmente 3, quiché, tzutujil y cachiquel. Y esta ha sido una campaña exitosa a nivel nacional y ahora somos referentes de otras organizaciones para crear más recursos.
Okay, so basically when the government first started coming out with this campaign and MAIA started making these videos, it was because there was this really important information they needed to get out. Information about things like not touching your face, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, things like wearing masks too, I've seen. But so what they did was they took the videos being created by government and they translated them into local indigenous languages, primarily three: Quechua, Sutujil, y
Chicken.
Quechua, ¿cuál?
Chicken, Piche, Sutujil.
Gracias. So into these three indigenous languages so that the people within their communities could understand. But then more than that, they're working with this larger network that we had mentioned. And so Vilma is saying that they were able to share these tools, these videos and information with those organizations so that they're also able to share that information.
Now we have a preventive measures video. Our MAIA graduates are creating a transformational change. They're from the same communities, live in different communities. Now they have a voice in the country and in the world. MAIA have a network in the country with other organizations like Limits Horizons in Ixil, Chilanik in Las Verapaces. They use our videos and our scripts for their beneficiaries. They create a video for their organization. And yeah, I think MAIA have like innovation in front of this situation with other organization and make a big network and strong network with the organization, with the communities, and with the girls too.
So I think this is a really strong point, which is that local organizations and girls' organizations have this natural way of working with the communities because they have been working with those communities for so long. And so they have this gender sensitive approach, they have the networks, they have the ability to reach girls in really remote areas. And I think actually, Vilma, we do have a few photos of some of the interventions that you've been taking. So if we can just show those photos, we can talk about a few of these different things that MAIA has been doing. So this is a photo of one of your students who is currently at home, but I know you gave out these packets of schoolwork. You made sure that they had all of the information that they needed to be able to do not only homework, but to keep up with classes along the way. And so we know that girls are able to continue their education in this way at MAIA.
Yes, they have like a portfolios, hygiene kits, tablets, and the computer. MAIA provide these resources for each girl.
Yeah, and this is actually a photo of those resources. So this is one of your staff members getting the tablets ready to go out to girls.
Yes, and yeah, because I think our communities don't have a technology, and MAIA provide that and continue. The girl developed life skills in front of this pandemic. Sorry, we continue with high equality education.
And then this is of one of your staff members dropping those materials off, correct?
Yes. Yeah, our team like work very hard every week to provide these resources for the girls because it's very important. Many girls in Guatemala don't have a resources, and we don't know, and they return in the schools when reopen the schools after this crisis.
Yeah, and I think the videos, the tablets, these way of reaching out, it's so important right now because you can only imagine, especially for the communities and the families, what it would be like to know that there's new information about COVID every day, and yet they don't have access to the information about what's happening. So we know that these videos are crucial, and getting the information out via the girls, via our students, is crucial as well.
Yeah, I think the other plan for the next weeks, we provide for the communities, families, and the girls more information through the podcasts and the news channels. Our guests are the girls, their voice in the world is the moment for the girls now. They lead a transformational change.
Yeah. And so I
Yeah.
wonder if you can tell us a little about what are the results that you're seeing so far? It's really early in this, but what are your results?
Um, okay, Maya empower girls to lead a systemic change in the communities. We have been giving them the tools they need to lead for many years. We also empower other organizations to empower their girls. And so during this emergency, we have the empowered to work with other organizations, communities, and families, and the girls. They trust us. Now, Maya graduates and students are working with their families and communities to give healthy information. They have the emotional capacity to handle a difficult situation. And other organizations are able to work with their students to do same using our materials, our videos, our podcasts, our news channels. We have a credibility with our works and our program in the communities, and so it's easy to work with the communities, with them in this situation. They know Maya gives education and information. They trust us and listen to our guidelines too. I think that is very powerful for us, and the continuing the empower the community, the local leadership in Guatemala and in the communities.
Yeah, and I think it's a really strong case for why local organizations are such a powerful resource and a powerful tool when we think about how to fight COVID, because organizations like MAIA and leaders like you are well positioned to bring information out to communities that ordinarily wouldn't get it, right? And so it's just a powerful case study, I think, to ensure that these organizations are getting the funding that they need. And that's actually why next week, She's the First is going to launch with a coalition of our partners an initiative to start raising funds for that immediate relief for community organizations who are pivoting to try and combat COVID. Because what we know is that if we don't stop the spread of this now, if we can't limit its impact on girls, we're going to have a huge disaster on our hands with the impact that it will have on girls in the long run. So Vilma, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and being with us today and sharing your insights. She's the First, going more along this theme of local organizations. We're just about to put out a report from our partner network on some of these initiatives that all of you are taking, that MAIA is taking, and you'll be able to find that starting tomorrow at shesthefirst.org/COVID. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about Vilma's work and the work of MAIA, you can do that at MAIAImpact.org. And we'd recommend definitely taking a look. It's an incredible organization with an incredible model. We are incredibly proud to partner with them and to partner with you, Vilma, and just to support your work in these difficult times and safeguard as many girls as possible. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Christen, and everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll be back for more Front Row Fridays next week. And until then, stay safe and stay healthy.